Hello, USC fans. Connor Morissette and Chris Trevino are here on campus after USC's 14th practice of spring ball. The spring game, of course, is Saturday at noon. That'll be the last day of spring practice. And then, Chris, we're off until fall camp. Wow, it's gone by very quickly. But yeah, like I said, the last practice before the spring game today, 5-star offensive lineman on campus, a recruit. He was visiting. He took it all in. Give us the name and your thoughts on the recruitment.
Andrew Babaloa out of Overland Park, Kansas. He's considered, by some, the number one offensive tackle in the country.
He sure looks like it.
He sure looks like it. Connor made a comment. The guy looks like he could play in an NFL training camp today. There's a reason why he's the number one offensive tackle prospect. So big visitor on campus. It wasn't the most exciting practice. They were just in jerseys and no pads. Obviously, they're going to be going full go on Saturday for the crowd. Half a football with that scoring format, defense versus offense. So they're saving it for that. Babaloa is supposed to be in the Coliseum on Saturday, so we'll get a full experience of that. But yeah, he was the big visitor today. Very light practice, shorter than usual. Everyone seemed like they were in a great mood, Connor.
They did seem like they were in a really great mood. We saw every linebacker switch jerseys around. Some other position groups switched jerseys too. It seemed like the guys were in good spirits, and they sort of liked wearing the other guys' jerseys. And Marquise Gallegos was wearing 19, and he was getting some crap from some of the guys walking out. So I think a lot of the freshmen switched. The whole linebacker room switched. It just seemed like the vibes were good. And after practice, Prophet Brown said, I've been through a few spring camps, and this definitely is the most tight-knit group of any spring camp I've been a part of. Eric Gentry said he didn't want the spring camp to end because they're having so much fun. So the vibes are good right now, and a lot of recruits going to be in the spring game on Saturday. We'll see what happens. We'll see what the action looks like because it's going to be the first real football that we've seen in quite a long time. We can't really see much in the 10, 15 minutes of practice that we're able to watch. So I'm excited to see Jaden Maeva and a lot of the new faces. What are you looking forward to seeing Saturday?
Well, just the defense in general. I know a lot of people are excited about that offense coming off that Holiday Bowl performance. Miller Mosh, Jacoby Lane, Zachariah Branch, all that. But we want to see the defense. We have no idea what that defense is going to look like. It is the make or break factor for USC in the Big Ten. Brought Danton Lynn over to take a defense that was atrocious. The worst statistically in the history of USC football. 1/16th at the bottom, just poo-poo, the worst. Yeah, he needs to turn that defense around for them to have any shot of having a bounce-back season. And, you know, they've been installing slow all spring, so we're not going to get to see a ton from the defense. We'll get very vanilla, but just getting that first taste of what the defense could look like, these guys in their positions, seeing them out there, tackling, moving, getting to the ball. Maybe a couple turnovers. They had 4 last year. You know, that defense was ended up being terrible.
Didn't the defense win the spring game?
They did. The defense won the spring game. So I asked Shotgun about that earlier. It's like, who do you think is going to win this weekend? He's like, well, if that defense could win in the spring game last year, I think the defense can win again this year. So, yeah, I don't know who's going to win, but I'm very excited to see Danton Lynn's defense and all those pieces moving together.
Give me the offense because Malachi Nelson was not healthy last year and threw 2 awful interceptions. I don't anticipate there being like 3 or 4 picks like there were last season. There were more than 2, right? Nelson threw 2. Did someone else have one over their fumbles?
There were 3 interceptions. Miller Moss threw 1.
Yeah.
Miller Moss threw 1, and there was 1 fumble. So 4 total turnovers for the defense.
Okay, that's enough about last year, though. People are tuning in for this year, of course. After practice, we heard from Doug Belk, the secondary coach here at USC. I asked him about Achille Arnold and Kamari Ramsey sort of separating themselves in that safety room. He said, for the 100th time we've heard this, that Achille Arnold is a real big-time leader at USC, and he's really helped fill that void in that room. Also talked about how Kamari Ramsey's benefited from Danton Lynn being at UCLA. Both of those guys last year, that's been a big help. I also asked him about Jarvis Boatwright, the early enrollee freshman from Florida, a guy we haven't really heard too much about. And Doug Belk talked about how Jarvis is really developing nicely. He's taken big strides. I think he went to his high school prom last weekend or the weekend before, so he was quick to remind me, Belk was, that Jarvis Boatwright is still a high school kid, and he is developing really well, so I expect him to get some reps in the spring game. I don't really think he'll have much of a role come the fall, but it's always good to get here early and get that first semester under your belt. Chris, the first interview you were a part of was Anthony Lucas, who a lot of fans are really excited about after last year he had sort of a limited role. It seems like he's a breakout candidate. What did he have to say?
Yeah, I was with the trenches today. I got Elijah Hughes and Anthony Lucas, 2 guys in the trenches, and who could have big seasons this year as people hope that they have that breakout, especially Anthony Lucas. You know, it would be so huge for USC's defense for him to finally click, to really get into that position to be a contributor this year. I know there were a lot of expectations on him last year. didn't quite hit. The consistency wasn't there, wasn't get the playing time. And he talked about that. He said, that season wasn't what I wanted to be. I had to come back hungrier, I had to come back more focused, and a lot of his teammates talked about they're seeing a more focused Anthony Lucas, and that's great news for Coach Henne and Sean Nua and Lincoln Riley and all those defensive coaches. If they unlock a former 5-star like Anthony Lucas, 6'6", 270 pounds, freak athlete. If you can get him going, yeah, your defense is a lot better. And a lot of coaches have talked about his versatility. He's a guy who can play outside, inside, that 3-tech, wherever, move him around. He's got that size. So really excited to see what Anthony Lucas looks like in the spring game. He will be one of my 6 players to watch for this weekend. Just a little preview. But Anthony Lucas, yeah, people buying stock in Anthony Lucas. I suggest you buy a little bit too.
Okay, yeah, I think between him and Braylon Shelby, one of those freak athlete, high recruit guys has a chance to have a breakout year, maybe both of them, so we'll get our first glimpse at them in the spring game. I talked to Prophet Brown, who's been working a little bit at Nickelback with Jalen Smith being out in spring camp right now. He picked up a little bit of an injury, not believed to be serious, so nothing that fans have to be worried about as far as the fall is concerned, but I don't expect we'll see Jalen Smith in the spring game, so expect to see Prophet Brown playing Nickelback in the spring game. I think he's going to be with the ones if the season started tomorrow. I believe he'd be the starting Nickelback. He said learning that position under Danton Lynn has been really helpful, and the defense, it's so different schematically to a year ago under Alex Grinch, but some of the positions are similar, and they're playing a lot more two deep safeties and then the nickel, which we did see a lot of that with USC last year. So it sounds like Prophet Brown is really comfortable not only at the boundary corner spot, but at nickel. And with no Traquan Fagans, he was the backup last year with Jalen Smith. He entered the transfer portal. That will allow for Prophet to move into that role. And he seems really patient and really happy. And I think he kind of understands nothing's really going to be given to him. He has to earn this role. But another year in the system, he probably won't compete to start at boundary cornerback right now, but he filled in really well in the Holiday Bowl when there was an injury. I think you need guys like Prophet Brown who, when someone does get hurt, someone isn't able to play, he can step up and do really well. We saw in the Holiday Bowl, like I said, that he was able to take that on. So I felt like even though he doesn't have a starting spot secured, he felt like he was in a really good spot, and that was cool to see. How about Elijah Hughes, Chris? What did he have to say?
Yeah, I talked to Elijah Hughes about, the difference from that D-line group from week 1 of spring camp to just now wrapping up the last week of spring camp. He says it feels like they're hungrier. They've gotten hungrier throughout the season. They know the expectations that Coach Henderson and Sean Nua have put on them. They need to be difference makers in this defense, and it seems like they're really taking that to heart. I talked about a little bit about his weight gain. He's put on some weight. I asked him, are you going to stay there, or is the plan to add, maybe 10 more, 15 more pounds? He says he doesn't know yet. He likes where he is right now. He's going to talk with the coaches after spring camp and going into summer and see, like, hey, what do you guys want from me? Do you guys want me to put on 10 more pounds? Do you want me to maintain where I'm at? So I'm excited to see what he looks like, and he's another guy you should keep an eye out for in the spring game because, he flashed last year as a true freshman, came out of nowhere, a 3-star guy out of the Virginia area, my neck of the woods. So not to take credit for him, no, it's all him, but he's a guy that people are expecting to step up a lot this season. I asked him who he was excited to see in the spring game. He said, Devin Tompkins has been doing really well, Sam Green, Braylon Shelby. Those are some of the guys he said expect for them to have good spring games showings on the Saturday.
If Bear Alexander plays and starts, he's sort of been in and out of the lineup for USC. Who do you think starts alongside him in the middle of the defense?
That's a good question. Right now, gun to my head, I feel like they were going to put Kobe Pepe in there.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just feel like Kobe Pepe, or I don't know if Dijon Lafitte is ready for that, but Kobe got a little bit of time last year. So I'm going to say Kobe Pepe. I feel like Kobe Pepe is the other big 300-pound body. I think he's older. I think he's stronger. I think he's a little bit ahead of Dijon Lafitte right now. So give me Kobe Pepe.
I love it. Chris, let's finish with Eric Gentry. We heard him today. A ton of really good stuff from Eric. As usual, he talked about how he's not just been taking reps at linebacker. Didn't reveal the position he's also playing, but it has to be edge, right?
My guess is nose tackle.
So
I changed my answer. Eric Gentry starting alongside Bear Alexander.
That would be great on like a Hail Mary. He could knock it down.
Yeah.
Being the tall guy that he is. So I thought that was interesting. He talked about, and a lot of guys have, just how the defense is more simple and they're not thinking as much. That seems to be a talking point that's been really hammered home with the team. Did you get to the bottom of what he said about the 116th in the nation and the 116 reps they're doing? Can you fill me in on that?
Yeah, I think I cracked that.
Yeah, you did.
Because he was asked about the returners, coming back. There's guys who played through a terrible defense, as we mentioned, and he spoke up and said, I'm never going to forget, where we were ranked last season. He said 116. I think that's 116 yards per play. That's how many yards they were giving up. He said, I'm never going to forget that number. So he said workout. So after every workout, we're doing 116 reps, during the workout. So I think cumulatively for the linebackers, they're getting in 116 reps, whatever they're working that day. So that's their mark, because that's where they were ranked last season. That's the driving number for them. So it wasn't too clear, but that's my interpretation of what he was talking about. When they're doing workouts, when they're lifting, cumulatively, they're getting to 116 whatever they're working out. So just a little thing in the mind, keeping their mind throughout the season. That's where we were ranked last year. We're done with that. We want to be ranked up here. We're bringing a new mentality to this defense.
He also said Easton Mascarenas-Arnold plays really, really fast, and it's loved playing alongside him. And like I said earlier, he said no one wants camp to end, which I think that's a good sign, because some people around this time, after a few weeks of football, it's the spring, you focus on the summer. I'm sure a lot of people, maybe at other teams, maybe even some people at USC are like, all right, I'm ready for this to be done. But Eric Gentry, not so fast. Chris, let's wrap up with a quick transfer portal minute. Lincoln Riley went on the 247 YouTube channel today and said defensive tackle, the interior of the defensive line, is the biggest need for the Trojans. I guess so after Isaiah Rakes leaves. I also think they need another tackle desperately on offense, and then wide receiver is a position of need as well. Give me 30 seconds on where you think USC will go from here in the transfer portal.
Yeah, obviously they have to get some big bodies. They don't have that nose tackle. I'm sitting here thinking Eric Gentry's going to start nose tackle. Kobe Pepe, they need to get that big nose tackle. There are some options out there. There are some options, so they need to grab, I feel like, at least two, because you need to replace Rakes, and then you were going to need another one to help with the rotation. So I still think they need at least 2 wide receivers. I think 2 is a good number. You get to 9, get some guys who can rotate in. And injuries are going to happen. They're part of the game, so I think they need to get there too. And then, I think they need a tackle. It doesn't seem like they're a sense of urgency in recruiting offensive linemen. Now, a big-time offensive tackle hasn't really entered the portal. There have been some rotational guys, so maybe they're waiting for that. But I still think they need at least a body to bring in to help, a veteran to help shore up that tackle, unless they just feel that strongly about Tobias Raymond and Elijah Pace and Mason Murphy. Maybe they do. Maybe we're wrong, but I still think they should get a little bit of insurance in the portal.
Right guard is another inexperienced spot, looking like Alani Noah or Amos Talalele right now. Gino Quinones will factor in when he gets healthy, so maybe they have more reserves than they do right now looking ahead to the fall. But receiver too. I think listen to the podcast that we'll have at uscfootball.com, because there's going to be a lot that will transpire here in the next couple of weeks when it comes to the portal. But we got to focus on the spring game, Chris. That's coming up Saturday. We'll both be there. We'll have full coverage of that on uscfootball.com. He's Chris Trevino. I'm Connor Morissette. Any final words?
I want you to give me one prediction. We're each giving a prediction for the spring game. You have to say who wins or loses. You just got to give me a prediction.
Okay. I predict that the offense will win, and I have Brian Jackson rushing for 2 touchdowns, the true freshman running back.
Okay. I think the defense will win, and I'm going to say Jacoby Lane leads all receivers in yards and catches.
Love it. He's Chris. I'm Connor. We'll see you next time.